morning, everyone, and welcome. Thanks so much for being here today. I know it's our second day of the Counselor Conference. I trust you all enjoyed the welcome keynote address yesterday and the session. So hopefully you're all super savvy with the conference app now. I'm still a bit clumsy, so hopefully this will go smoothly, but thank you all for joining us. This session is all about understanding the regional K-14 Career Pathways initiatives. This is the regional strong workforce efforts going on. And I am Amertah Perman, Dean of Career Education and Workforce Development at the San Diego Community College District Office, working across San Diego City, Mesa, Miramar College, and continuing education. I am one of the 3 tri-chairs for the K-14 Career Pathway work group. I'm joined here this morning with Al Love and Denise Cabanilla. Would you both like to introduce yourselves?
I'll go ahead first, Denise, since I was already unmuted. Al Love, Senior Director of College and Career Readiness for the San Diego County Office of Education.
Awesome. My name is Denise Cabanilla. I'm the Director of Higher Education and Adult Learning, the beautiful Imperial County.
Great. Well, so we're going to talk a lot about what we're all doing right now this fall in our Career Pathways work group, and really invite you to participate in that work. Before we get started, though, I would love to get a sense of who's in the room. So if you could put where you're coming from and sort of what sector you represent. Are you a counselor? Are you a faculty? Are you a teacher? K-12, community college? Just trying to get a sense of who's in the room this morning with us all. I think there's a little over 30 people this morning, so thank you for joining us. And I think, Alex, they can just put that right in the chat within the conference app, right? Okay, great.
Correct, yeah, in the chat box, third to the right from your screen.
And just so you know, Alex, I'm trying to monitor that, but for some reason, my conference app view is, oh, it's not blank. I see people coming through. Okay, Sweetwater high school counselor, college counselor, great, from Grossmont. Wonderful, thank you for joining us. Miramar College, wonderful, wonderful. I know once you find the chat feature, you'll figure out how to use it, right? It took me a little while too. Great. Okay, well, it's looking like we've got both K-12 and community college represented in the room, which is fantastic because this is all about those intersegmental partnerships. Looks like we've got counselors and teachers, faculty. That's really wonderful. I'm so glad that you're all joining us today. So before we really talk about the specific projects we're really focused on this year in our work group, I did want to give a little bit of context for the broader work. And so for those who may not be familiar, regionally, there's all these initiatives going on and really trying to strengthen sort of that student road to success when it comes to career pathways and education into the workforce region-wide around our strong workforce initiatives. And so there's a number of work groups in this graph. Our graphic was designed by the regional consortium efforts where all of our community colleges are represented. And then through our work groups, we also have K-12 represented as well as adult education. And this graph is more than we're going to focus on today, but I want to give you a sense of the kind of work going on all the way through a student's journey from really introduction to post-secondary and career pathways all the way through to completion and employment. Our area of work is really on this very first pillar, which is clarifying the path. And that pre-enrollment focus. And so just zooming in a little bit, the Career Pathways work group, again, is all about that first pillar and post-secondary engagement, or what we call pre-enrollment activities. And there's sort of 3 main sections here, which is the high school, adult education, and then of course the workforce self-referral. These are sort of the pathways right into the community college landscape. And so our work group is sort of focused on that. So when we talk about career pathways, that's the space that we're really focused on. And within these 3 buckets, very big, complex buckets, right? We're talking a lot about outreach, alignment, and acceleration, right? So how are we engaging audiences within these 3 areas? Not only the learner within these areas, but the partners too, right? So adult education, high school, middle school, and of course, employers. When we talk about alignment, it's about that programmatic curricular alignment between K-12 into the community colleges through our career pathways. And then acceleration is all about those early college credit opportunities that help students, whichever pathway that they're in, complete faster and get into the workforce faster. And so that's kind of the scope of work. It's a big scope of work, a complex scope of work. And that's why we're really focused on trying to establish really strong intersegmental partnerships to help get this work done. Our work group is really focused on some long-term outcomes, and I won't read the 4 outcomes to you. Hopefully you can see them on your screen, but I do want to point out some key highlights, right? So we're talking about K-14 intersegmental partnerships, the most important partnerships, but the most challenging ones, right, to establish and to maintain as positions change and funding shifts. We're also talking about high quality aligned career pathways, right? So what does a career pathway look like within K-12, within community college, and those pathways that connect them? And how do we ensure alignment and really high quality components like work-based learning, partnerships, those kinds of things? How do we focus on awareness and understanding, right? Ensuring that parents, students, learners, employers are aware of these career pathway opportunities and how to connect the dots, how to accelerate through them. And then, of course, the most important is really a focus on equitable access, equitable completion, and then that equitable transition. And when we talk about transitions, what we're really talking about are those moments of, I'm trying to think of another word other than transition, of those moments of transition between middle school to high school to college, adult ed into college, that sort of post-secondary process to ensure that you're getting the credentials that we really need in order to be successful in the workplace. Whether you're completing those post-secondary credentials inside K-12 or you're transitioning to complete them in community college. So that's sort of the area of our work when we talk about our long-term goals, the why behind this, and the structure of this work behind this, right? So the regional structure that's supporting this initiative is a work group structure. There's 3 main work groups within our career pathway section. The first is where Al and Denise and I are primarily focused as tri-chairs, and that's what we're gonna focus on today is really the work of the formal K-14 Career Pathways work group. But I did wanna point out that there's also a work group on middle school and high school engagement and adult ed and non-credit. And these both work groups have been around for a little while now, and they're doing fantastic work. And we're all coming together to connect the dots. We just really recognize that there are some big elements in these areas, so they needed their own work group and their own structure to really dive into alignment and integration before we all come back together. And so we're very well connected, but this is sort of the basic structure around the regional career pathway efforts. The final structure that we've really just added and we're kicking off this month actually is a K-14 pathway partnership community of practice. And this puts sort of arms around all 3 work groups and all those involved in these intersegmental career pathways. And so this community of practice, I did want to make sure you were invited to, right? So one of the big things with a community practice is to ensure that it provides a space with meaningful representation, and career pathways touches so many of our positions across all of these areas, right? So faculty, counselors, staff, there's so many different partners involved in this. And so we want to make sure that people are participating and really well represented. And so there is an invitation to join our very first kickoff event, which is December 16th, just coming up. We're going to be showcasing some successful K-14 pathways and providing opportunities to connect and dive into some topics. And so we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I did just want to pause and kind of talk about that community practice model. So because the community practice model is really what's going to put our arms around all the elements of this career pathway section when it comes to pre-enrollment and post-secondary engagement. And so I did just want to remind us all that, you know, in the traditional community of practice model, it's really about domain, community, and practice, right? And in our regional work, we've also added a very intentional 4th bucket, which of course is always integrated, but we really want to call it out, which is that continuous improvement, right? The commitment to continuous improvement and the collaborative learning across the segments. And so for this work, we're really talking about, when we talk about the domain, we're really talking about these career pathways, right? Our shared inquiry and the key issues, student success, alignment, work-based learning, what is quality career education? So it's really all about what we care about. And the community is really who cares, right? Hopefully you all care. And it's not only who cares about the individual parts that they're connected to, but also who's willing to become engaged and commit to a process of collective learning, right? And the practice component is all about what we're going to do together. So it's really about facilitating an investigation of key questions, problems, knowledge sharing, and then of course, co-creating new information and resources that hopefully improve our processes and our work together. And of course, again, that last bucket is the commitment to collaborative improvement. So a community of practice is really all about relationship building through discussion, activities, and learning. Ideally, it's a visible and reliable structure that can really foster mutual respect and understanding in a space to, as I mentioned before, co-create new information. The idea is that it's supported by routine meetings and events. And so one of the things that we're trying to do as tri-chairs is to collaboratively, with input from everyone in the community, really create a community of practice that is well represented, right? That has inclusive membership, of meaningful representation, and that creates space to look at promising practices and really dive into issues and challenges that may fall outside of some of the specific projects that we're doing within our work group, but of course will be interconnected. And so again, I welcome you all to join us on December 16th for our very first community of practice, and we'll be holding another one in the spring. We're going to pause this for a moment before we dive into our priority projects for our career work group. I just want to pause and see if there are any questions. You can use the Q&A feature, or I'm comfortable if you want to unmute and just ask a question, that's fine too. So anything about sort of the broader context, the big goals, or our structure, let us know, and then we'll transition to Denise and dive into priority project information. I don't see any questions or hear anybody, which is fine. And so I guess we will just transition over to Denise. Oh, you got to unmute.
That happens at least 6 times a day. Thank you so much, Amertah. And if you're comfortable advancing the slides for me, I'd appreciate it. All right, so I think what we're moving into now, as Amertah mentioned, she gave you like the overall structure of what we do in our work group. But these are some of the priority projects that have been selected for the 2020-2021 school year. So as Amertah mentioned, that community of practice where we're showcasing promising practices and really doing some intersegmental discussions. You know, of course, we'd love to have you participate with us. And then the other projects that we're looking at, that we're going to talk a little bit about today and actually go dive a little deeper into some of these. And Al, feel free to jump in anywhere here, my friend. We're going to talk about the public-facing program finder tool. That's a lot of words, but we'll kind of dig into what that means and how that will support the work that you all do with your students and families and community. Another one of our priority projects is the early college credit within career education pathways. So we have different groups sort of working on these two areas. Okay. So what we're going to dive a little deeper into today is the public-facing program finder. And it's the purpose of it is to kind of implement a student-focused product to use that kind of helps students, families, school counselors, community college counselors, and other faculty to use the interface into a crosswalked program and pathway data. So it has a lot of different features that will be usable to the end user. And so that's kind of a broad overview. Once we get into the actual tool, we'll kind of take a deeper look at that. So if we would, we'll click on that link there. And this is not ours yet. Ours is in production as we speak. I know through San Diego and Imperial counties, we're working with administrators and such to collect some information that is going to be required to be put into the tool, as well as data is being collected and input. So this should be launching soon, but this is Orange County's program finder tool. So as you can see, it has all the sectors there. So if we just click on any one of those, you'll be able to see here that it has all of the programs that are available in Orange County. So let's pick one, Amertah. Okay, so if you're interested in agriculture, business, sales, and services, this gives you an overview, a map of all of the areas. These are high schools where these are available. So if we just click on one of them, it'll take you to theirs, and then it'll tell you, if you'll notice there, it has the high school, the pathway, and then the total number of students in the pathway. So it gives you sort of an overview of what is available in your schools or in your county, your community. Let's pick a different one, Amertah, because I don't see the colleges that might be available. So if we look at arts, media, and entertainment, you'll see that there are programs at multiple high schools. And then you see the little red icon there that tells you what colleges have the continuation of that pathway, right? Where a student could transition to complete a post-secondary certificate or degree. And so that's kind of the beauty of the Program Finder tool, is that it not only does it allow you to identify these different pathway programs within your larger community, but also the connection to that post-secondary program. Okay, Al, anything to add here? You're muted, my friend.
Nothing to add there at all. I mean, you pretty much, I call it MapQuest for CTE programs. And I think that as an outward facing tool, it's pretty self-intuitive. You don't have to think too hard about it. You click on a sector, it'll carry you to the potential high schools and the community colleges that offer those courses. And then you just, at that point in time, need to reach out and contact the counselor at that school for any further questions. And then you can even divvy down to the teacher. You can get down to the teacher level. So that's a great platform that we look forward to launching ours sometime in January.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, Al. So, you know, we kind of took you through, I love that MapQuest for CTE. I think that's what we'll call it in air quotes or something, right? But it's the thing that we're really excited about is that, you know, we'll have access to local data and local control. We'll be able to manage this through the region. It'll have analytics, so we'll be able to track, you know, how is it being used, what challenges might be experienced with that. You'll have access to job title search engines to search by occupation, job title, as well as top code, right? And then distance filters. It'll allow the user to control the size of the area. So, you know, I'm thinking about Imperial County. Obviously, I'm always thinking about Imperial County. And we have one community college, right? So all of our programs will show up there, but we also know that we have some students who do pursue things in the San Diego area. So the ability for our community college, our high school, middle school counselors to be able to use this tool to kind of show students a broader approach to some of these things is really exciting. So that's also another option that we'll have available to us through this Program Finder tool. Okay, so what are the next steps, right? You're like, well, when does this come? What's going on? So as I mentioned, it is in process right now. And the plan is to kind of take a look behind the scenes of the tools. We're hoping to have something for our region in January of 2021. And so our thoughts, our hope is to increase awareness of the tool. We really are looking at, you know, how do we roll this out to ensure that everyone has a full understanding, access to this tool, etc. So we're looking at marketing and outreach plans. And of course, we'd love your input on any of these things. One of the things we've said in our meetings is, you know, it's a great tool, but if we don't get it into the hands of the right people and make sure that we all have full understanding, accessibility, and knowledge of it to be able to share that to the broader community, that's something that we are working really hard to ensure that when we roll it out, there's awareness, there's accessibility, and that you have what you need. And so we'd love to hear from you with regards to, you know, how could we roll this out? What are your thoughts, feedback on how to best roll this out to ensure that there is access and understanding of this tool? And we're going to do an activity here in a couple more slides where we'll really love to hear from you.
Great. Thanks, Denise. And before we go on to the next project, just want to pause. I know Denise mentioned we're going to do an activity sort of in response to that question. We'll do that soon. But are there any specific questions about what was shared with the Program Finder tool so far? I'm looking at the chat and the Q&A, and I don't see any, but I did just want to pause and give a moment if there were any. Okay.
Hi, Amertah. This is Heather Cavazos. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Heather.
I'm joining from the region, and I just wanted to say for presenting on the Program Finder tool, we actually, as a region, with all of our support from the colleges as well as our K-12 partners, we are, as a region, going to roll this out. So everything that you know, Denise spoke about in Amertah, the marketing campaign and things like that, we'll make sure that this is a very holistic, like regional approach, right?
Yes.
And make sure that everybody has access to this tool, which will be used not only for counselors, educators, administrators, but also for parents and students, right? So this is really a tool for everybody. So we'd love to get your thoughts. And I know there's an exercise dedicated to it, but I just wanted to say hello. I'm helping to lead this project internally with the region along with our great partners. So thank you.
Thanks, Heather. So glad you could join us and chime in there. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of your support. It takes a lot to make this a real regional effort, and it would be impossible without you. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Real briefly on the other priority project, right? So we've got the pathway mapper tool. Now I'm going to call it all the different names. And then we also have a focus on sort of an early college credit project. And so this is really all about contextualizing the early college credit for career pathway completion, right? So how can we regionally look at ways to support our partners in the area to really help them leverage early college credit to strengthen the career pathways, the transitions, and really ensure that it leads to degree and certificate completion. So this work group project is kind of focusing on three main areas, really looking at what's happening in the landscape, right? What are the forms of early college credit leveraged within the career pathways, and what are the challenges and opportunities, and what's the best regional view, right? How can we really look at this holistically across the region when we think about the number of career pathways with early college credit opportunities and where there may be gaps, how to strengthen them, how do we look at student success, what are really the goals of early college credit when it comes to career pathway completion. We're also looking at the regional, sort of a regional resource guide, thinking about ways to support all of our practitioners in the field and think about sort of regionally informed and supported recommendations. So there's a lot of different examples out there that we're exploring, thinking about what might be best to help everyone in the field. And then, of course, professional development, right? Opportunities to explore problems of practice, promising examples, resources and tools, and then, of course, innovations and excellent partnership models. So this work group project is focused on these three areas. And right now, we are diving really deep into definitions and terms. So with this work, there's always confusion around, well, what do you mean by concurrent enrollment versus dual enrollment? And what exactly is an articulation agreement, right? And so we really felt in our work group, representatives really communicated the need to identify common terms. And so this work is just getting underway. We've developed sort of a glossary of terms, and everyone's giving their feedback, reviewing it, adding suggestions, bringing up issues and challenges. And so if you're interested in participating, please let us know. We're also looking at existing handbooks and guides. Other regions in our state have been putting together some some really excellent regional guides around dual enrollment and articulation. And so we're looking at what exists and seeing what would be the best model for our region. And then we're also exploring a regional investment, a possible future investment to help really change behavior around how we develop early college credit within career pathways, and how best to support that work through a potential future investment. And so that's an area that we are exploring. Let's see, I think I see a chat question pop up. So I just want to pause and see if there's any questions about the early college credit projects that are underway in this work group. Let's see. Alex, did you mention there is a question?
Yeah, so let me read the question. This is about the tool that was referenced earlier. Does the tool identify apprenticeship programs available in the region? Does it help identify if apprenticeship or college credit is preferable for employment?
That's a great question. Denise, Al, or Heather, do we know if it's including apprenticeship programs yet?
I would say that the way that the tool works is it identifies where programs are, and then when you look at the program, you may find out that built in that program is a relationship with a partner that provides apprenticeships or job shadowing or mentoring opportunities, and so you'll find out more details once you dive deeper into the click protocol. So from the high level, you wouldn't see that. On the MapQuest, there wouldn't be apprenticeship icon above a college or above a high school. But as you click in, you will find that certain programs have those relationships, and they have those work-based learning elements.
Great, thanks, Al. And I know that, there's a lot of resources out there that show sort of, within the priority sectors where the programs are and what's really needed for employment and success in that field. And I think right now, the sort of the initial launch of this program is really focus on the connecting the dots between the K-12 program and the community college program. So what's where, and then when you dive into it, as Al mentioned, you're going to be able to see what kind of program that is, if it's an apprenticeship or not, those kinds of things. In the future, perhaps it will be connected to some broader information that already exists about what's really needed for success in that field or occupation that those programs are training for. I think that's sort of a secondary phase, as are some of the expanded opportunities. So I think the first launch is really going to be sort of the high school program and the community college program. The second phase, hopefully sooner than later, will be the adult education program to the community college program. And in the future, it'll become more and more robust as we connect it to our other resources. We should also mention that it is connected, or will be connected, to the career education website for the region, which talks about what's really needed for job success within the priority sectors in our region. So there's always going to be that connection, but hopefully it'll be fully integrated one day down the line. So thanks for that question. It's a great question. In terms of staying connected with this work, obviously, always reach out to Denise, Al, or myself. We're happy to connect. If you want to be added to any of the work group meetings or the community of practice events, please email Monica Rosas. She'll get you added to the calendar invite. We'd love to have you join us. Even if you're just a little curious or you're super curious and want to get involved, whatever extent of your interest is, we certainly welcome you to participate. Our upcoming work group meetings are January, February, April, and May. And then we have a spring community practice in March. And of course, the December 16th community of practice that I mentioned earlier, you're certainly welcome to join us. So I'm going to transition over to Denise, who's going to walk us through an activity. And Denise, would you like me to bring up the link itself, or perhaps, Alex, can you put the link in the chat for everybody?
There you go.
Yeah. So it's in the chat, everyone. So again, to the right of your screen, 3 tabs over, click on that chat button, and at the bottom of that screen, you'll see the link in the box there.
And I'm going to share my screen. This is where, when you follow that link, you should be led to this page. And so this is a Jamboard for the activity. So we'll just give you a moment to follow that link. And I can see there's a number of anonymous squirrels joining. I love that. A wombat. Excellent. Please join. And Denise, let's see what we're going to do.
All right, so I'm in here. I don't think you can see my cursor, but hopefully y'all are familiar with Jamboard. And this is just a way for us to kind of get some feedback and some understanding and an opportunity for you to share some thoughts or information that you have with regards to this program finder too. We'd really love to know, now that you know a little bit more about this, how do you see yourself using this tool? What benefits do you see for these 3 different groups? Remember that we are looking to target all these groups individually, as well as ensure that there's a full understanding and ability to utilize the tool, to ensure that our kiddos have the tools they need to progress through that pathway from middle school to high school through post-secondary education. So what we want to see from you, as you see here, I have my own tab here. This is my sticky note, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the left-hand side. You're going to click under the arrow, which will bring up a sticky note for you. You'll click that. You get to pick a color. You can do yellow, green, blue, pink, or orange. And you add an idea, a comment, a thought about how you see yourself using this or what benefits it could bring to a certain group. And so for this one, you might have an idea of how you'd like to use it or how it could benefit a district and a school leader, or you might have something that you're thinking as a school counselor, I would use it this way, or if I'm a teacher, I'd like my school counselor to use it in this way. Or as a teacher, I can see myself doing this with it in my classroom. And lastly, students and families. So we'd love to hear from you. And please post as many sticky notes as you'd like. And we'll take about, why don't we take about 5 minutes and we'll check in with you in 5 minutes. But go ahead, grab a sticky note and share your thoughts with us.
Post away.
These are great. Keep them coming. We'll take one more minute. So if you have any final closing thoughts, share them on a sticky note, and then we'll kind of go through these a little bit.
I love to see them pop up.
I do too.
I like that comment. Great.
All right, I think we're ready to go through a couple of these. We'll let that final one.
We got a real active comment box there. I love it.
I love it.
You're doing great.
Okay, well, let's take a peek at some of these. Amertah, do you want to pick one that kind of stands out to you?
Oh, well, I have to say well, maybe it's cheating because I was so excited about how big that text was that I'm kind of zoomed in on it. But I have noticed that there's a couple posts actually that really talk about using it in a sort of a curricular way itself, right? Using it to help people learn. So not only thinking about it as a counseling tool or an outreach tool, but also thinking about how to incorporate it into curriculum with lessons and for students. And I even see some comments about using it with the parents as well. So some at-home activities, giving them assignments, finding X number of career pathways that you're interested in and looking at those. You can always give some good homework assignments to have them come in and share what they found on the site, what college was of interest to them. And you can do those kinds of exploration activities in middle school or high school. And so a lot of those Post-it notes really stood out to me.
Awesome. Thank you. Al, what about you?
Well, the one that I look at it is under the district and school leaders, where it says explore gaps and opportunities for program expansion. And one of the things that I know that it does for me as I reflect is that many times when you were meeting with students and they had a desire to look at what's next, how do I continue my learning in this particular area? And then you'd go to that particular community college and there wouldn't be any content. You'd see that there was a course of study, but you didn't see that there was any content about the student experience or anything that would let an individual who was highly engaged at their high school to understand, other than just course of study, to understand what am I actually getting ready to sign up for. I'm not just going to sign up for something that just gives me cold text. And so nowadays, people link to your websites. The most dynamic websites tend to get the most hits, and it tends to get the most students. And so understanding how you are being presented in this space, in this digital galaxy, is very important. So for district and school leaders, it becomes very important when you look at your website as a marketing tool to make sure that you have at least enough content up there to really market your programs. If that's the minimum, at least have enough to market your programs. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Al. I love that. I want to call on just anyone in our group today. I like, when I do presentations, I like for it to be a discussion. And so I'd like to invite any one of our participants today to speak up and share with us your sticky note, your thoughts behind that. So do we have a courageous participant today who'd like to unmute themselves and share with us what your thought was? I know there's one of you out there. I see some people I know on the call, so.
Call them out.
I might tap on you.
Yeah, and please feel free. Just definitely feel free to unmute yourself. You can even turn on your video if you want. Though I have so many screens open, I don't know if I'd see you anyway. But feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, I won't call anyone out today. It's early, but you know, these are fantastic. Thank you so much. You know, you did your part. You shared your thoughts, your ideas of what to do with this tool. And honestly, when we're talking about this, the context of the conversations are really centered on these things. We want this to be something that you find value in, that you feel is really going to benefit your students, your community, your districts. You know, I'm looking at one that really stood out to me: get a regional sense of a map of visuals of where program distance occurs, how we can address transportation and distance. I mean, what a beautiful thing. You literally have a map on there that we can explain to students like, hey, it's going to take you this much time. There's a closer college that has the program you're looking for. Maybe we look there, or they don't have it there. So you are going to have to travel a little further to make that connection to the post-secondary program. So these are all fantastic. We appreciate this. Know that we will use this and consider it as we continue to develop these plans for rollout, for outreach, for marketing. And we really just want to encourage you to reach out to us and give us your thoughts, your feedback. We've all had tool rollouts, and we want to make sure that this is successful and that it's valued. And you are our people, and so we want to make sure that it works for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and thank you so much for these awesome thoughts.
Yeah, and before we go back to the slide, the slide deck, I will just say, you know, Denise, I really appreciate that you called that one out in particular. I was looking at it as well, and I think, you know, one of the great opportunities here is as we engage in this tool together, since we'll be using a shared tool across all of these areas of work and engagement opportunities, it can really help inform really meaningful ways to target investments, right? So not only regional strong workforce funds at the community college level, but your K-12 strong workforce funds, right? So thinking about that transportation, right? If you've got an excellent program and a specific career pathway that leads to high wage demands, but you really need that post-secondary credential, and the next pathway level is at a community college with another really robust program, but the distance is far, how can you leverage your K-12 strong workforce funds and really think about a project to help connect those dots, or even to raise awareness about the issue, explore opportunities, those kinds of things. So a tool like this, a shared tool like this, can really help justify investments and shed light on gaps where investments are really needed. So I think that is really a nice one to call out. And so what's been really fun is to kind of see the level of engagement here, right? That sort of high level strategic planning, and also down in the weeds, if you will, within the classroom, how to engage students. Al, did I see you raise a finger?
I think I'm going to add on to what you just said, and what Denise said earlier, is that our work group is thinking regionally and is thinking big. And so when you look at the work we're doing, it's not about defining what career pathways are. That work has to be done before us. And so this is the group that once you've done that work, now we can talk about some of those bigger high quality objectives that we think high quality regional programs exhibit. So when you look at having built-in industry partners that you already know that they're going to be there, they're reliable, they are working with you in work-based learning and providing you opportunities, whether it's just shop tours or whether it's internships. This is the work group that talks about, okay, you have a career pathway and you want to know what's next, or how do I engage more with my post-secondary partners, or how do I get more engaged with nonprofit partners, or how do I, this is that group. And so this is for the career pathway that wants to kind of move into that next level. They want to move the needle. And so when you looking at the program finder tool and looking at it from, okay, it's pretty obvious the MapQuest aspect of it, but there are bigger aspects. There are more high quality functions that a program finder tool can have if you already have addressed those other issues. But if you haven't addressed those other issues, the program finder tool just finds programs for you. That's it. And that's fine too, because can you imagine it's 2020 and this is the first time we're going to have a regional program finder tool? It's 2020. And I would say that I'd go back to 1977 when I was taking a machine shop program at Kearney, and then found that I had some interest in it, and I had to go to City College to continue the machine shop technology program. And then once I finished there, I found out San Diego State had cut their program, so I had to go to Cal State LA to finish my program there. And then when I finished my Cal State LA program, the engineering fields was taking a dive, so I came into teaching. And that's the only reason I'm here today, is that I came into teaching because engineering in 1989-90 was kind of dying. And so a program finder tool, I didn't find a program in San Diego. I had to leave and go to LA. And so here we are in 2020, and this is the first time I've seen an actual platform that could address how one could navigate and find a program within the region. So as for its first time user, that's probably what it's going to do. But for the advanced programs, it has a higher function that we can talk about if you want to be part of our work group.
Thank you for adding that. Let's see. I'm going to go back. That was our guiding question. I think I'll just go back to this screen one more time, and building off of what Al shared, this really is an invitation to get involved, right? And as Al, I think you put it so well, that it's not so much what a career pathway is, it's how do we really, really think of regional pathways, right? It's not just about your individual pathway within your college or your high school or your middle school, but how do we create regional connected pathways that are obvious, that are known, that are visible. And once they become visible through tools like the Pathway Mapper, we can start to really address equity gaps and opportunities for investment and strengthening them. So it makes me kind of want to go all the way back to the first long-term objective slide, but I will resist flipping through the slides. But again, please feel free to reach out. You can obviously email any one of us. We can put our emails in the chat, but also Monica Rosas helps us organize those events and meetings, so you're please welcome to attend. And I think we're ready to close, but I want to pause and open it up once again to any questions, comments, insights. Feel free to use the chat or the Q&A or unmute yourself. We'll just give you a moment, and we'll stare awkwardly into our screens. And I'm going to put Monica's in here.
And all of our meeting materials for everyone on the phone will be in the app. You'll have access to the app after the conference. So if you'd like a copy of these slides, Monica's email, or any of the content that was presented today, all will be shared. We'll include a transcript of the call and the recording itself.
Thank you. Okay, I can't help it. I gotta go back. I'm doing it. Big picture, long-term goals, right? Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I hope that this session was helpful for you and gave you some insight into the work that's going on and lets you know that you are part of this work, whether you know it or not, and that we welcome your feedback and thoughts as we move forward with our work group meetings and the community of practice. And with that, I guess we'll let you get prepared for your other sessions and your break and your networking and all of that. And please enjoy the rest of the Counselor Conference.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
And great job, Amertah, Denise. And thank you for your support, Alex.
Yes, thank you. Good job.